All right, so let's get things started. I wanted to collect a few of my observations on how finance has changed and certainly is changing in this so-called new normal. So these are my own thoughts and based on my discussions with many companies and their financial departments. After my presentation, would love to go through conversation on whether this resonates with you and your observations. So we will look at all of these 5 trends or observations in more detail, but here I'm listing what I think is going on in the domain at the moment. So first of all, cash agility is even more important than before. I mean, cash has been always the king, and being able to manage cash in agile way has been a priority for finance organizations, like always. But with pandemic, I think it's fair to say that it actually became a top priority almost overnight for every company and the whole company. So what used to be a priority for CFO, all of a sudden became a top priority for the entire company in most of the cases. So I think that's really important in terms of future of finance. Secondly, the advancements in technology have been tremendous last few years, and that opens up like entirely new world to actually make data actionable and to make it serve the purpose. And we will also dive into this a bit deeper. Getting rid of paper has been super relevant during pandemic. Obviously, offices have been closed and so on, but many companies have also realized how tremendous benefits there are when you are moving away from paper. So I think it's fair to say that many companies shifted away from paper as a sort of mitigation activity, but at the same time, they actually created very sustainable long-term value. 4th topic is sustainability, and I think it's becoming like a major factor in the decision making in finance or in procurement. To be honest, based on my observations, this is currently probably a bit bigger trend in Europe comparing to North America, but definitely it's just a matter of time when many leaders also in North America start to have sustainability related targets as key KPIs next to their financial targets. And this is happening certainly already. And finally, all of this means, from my standpoint, that it is actually a great opportunity. Everything going on at the moment, it's a great opportunity for finance and procurement to deepen the collaboration and lead the way in companies' digital transformation. So let's dive a bit deeper for all of these 5 topics, and let's start by zooming into cash agility. So there is tons of evidence that last year, in the middle of a pandemic, companies that had close to real-time visibility in their cash survived best. And you all know this better than me, but I mean, obviously being able to accurately forecast, how the cash position is developing, and by being able to automate maturity of the AP process, then you get the visibility to decide, when you pay faster, to whom you pay first, all of this. And with pandemic, it has been crucial to be fully on top of the situation all the time. Which suppliers you need to pay immediately to keep them operational, to deliver whatever is business critical for you. And then again, in which situations it is actually better to pay late and optimize your own cash position by extending the DPO. And why all of this is relevant from the future of finance standpoint is that I think pandemic pushed many companies to invest in better visibility and agility. And this is the direction where the entire business and the domain is going to. So modern technologies, modern cloud-based finance automation platforms should have all of this built in so that you can accurately estimate the development of your cash position. You should be totally on the driver's seat when it comes to deciding, for example, when to pay and to whom. And you definitely should not be stuck with invoices being somewhere in the process, standing in someone's inbox, probably that person went to PTO, and then that's jeopardizing your process. So that's definitely how it should not be anymore. So these solutions, they must be much smarter to handle these situations and automate into high extent, and then provide the visibility. And a bit later, we will also talk about what adding artificial intelligence into the picture will enable. That's another exciting theme. But also one aspect in this agility, cash agility, is to have tight collaboration and like shared visibility with your vendors. So, if and when the vendors can also log in with their own credentials to your AP automation system and see where their invoices are, when they can expect them to be paid, and potentially even proposing things like early payment discount terms. So, I mean, that all also improves the agility and visibility. And this obviously requires like a proper secure data model in the backend so that the vendors can only see the invoices they are allowed to. But when this is built into your future finance platform, you can get really many benefits. And for example, you are able to get totally rid of the vendors calling your AP departments and asking when they are getting paid, because you can let them go and serve themselves. So and that means agility also not only for you, but also cash agility for your vendors. So that's cash agility, and then let's move to the next topic, which would be analytics and artificial intelligence. And this is certainly my favorite topic. So I think there is actually a huge dilemma with big data today. I mean, people have been talking about big data for years, how data is the king or data is new oil, which is kind of true, but just having the data actually gives you very little value if you think about it. I would almost say that having some BI or analytics tool on top of the data, still creates rather small value in the end. And this is because, even when we do have the data, we do not have time to analyze it. I mean, it's big data, it's tons of data, and we don't typically have the luxury to spend tons of time to do the analysis. At least I do not, and based on my observations, it's the same for many other people. So what is game-changing element here is the machine learning or artificial intelligence or intelligent algorithms. It doesn't really matter what those technologies like actually are, but the point is that these solutions, and again, I'm talking about modern cloud-based financial automation solutions, they need to be smart enough to do all of this analysis on the background. Like 24/7, the AI, artificial intelligence would be scanning through the data, find patterns, find behaviors, and then based on these findings, tell the user what to do. So I would say it's a bit similar thing than like Google Maps. I mean, when you are driving your car, you get the real value when the app is telling you when to turn, where to go, rather than just showing a map. So in a similar way, with finance tools in the future, and actually in very, very near future, they need to be equally smart and give instructions for the end users. For example, the AI may say that this invoice looks suspicious. This vendor, they don't typically charge like this. You may want to double check this particular invoice. Or it may say that you always pay late payment fees for this particular vendor. So probably you want to take this invoice to Fastlane and process it quickly. Or it may say that, by the way, John from marketing department never sets up a substitute when he's going to PTO. And this happened again, so would you want me to move his invoices to someone else? Like proactively manage the process like this. So, I mean, the list of use cases is endless, how you can harness AI, machine learning to make your process more efficient, but also to provide the data in the right context, in a meaningful way, smart recommendations for the end users, and that way make the data really actionable. The other intriguing aspect in this data context is the usage of community data. So when you are using like a modern cloud-based finance automation tool, there are actually tons of other companies who are using exactly the same most recent version of the tool. So what that enables is that by anonymizing the information, the data, these solutions, they can sort of give you benchmarks. They can show you not only your own KPIs and how you're doing, but also how the best performers using the very same service, how well they have been able to improve their process. Like, how many invoices the best performers have been able to automate based on purchase orders, or what is their approval time, what is the benchmark approval time based on the community of users using exactly the same solution as you do. And with this type of stuff, you will be able to set your targets to be sort of realistic, because someone else has done it already, but also ambitious, and that way you can then drive your own process to become more efficient with realistic target setting. So tons of really exciting stuff there. And then we are moving to my third topic, which is touchless automation. It sounds like impressive and probably like a distant goal to go like touchless, but I think that is in the transactional processing, like in finance, that should ultimately be the target state. And during pandemic, many companies did eliminate the paper entirely, to keep things running in the remote working setup. And for many of these, now the next step after getting rid of paper will be to use this electronic and digital process to drive further efficiencies, more automation. So the touchless process, it may sound like a utopia, but in many cases, it's not really so. I mean, eventually by combining traditional like rule-based automation and then more intelligent machine learning-based automation, getting to the entirely touchless is actually doable and achievable. So as an example, I believe many of you have been automating your purchase order-based invoices with three-way matching, which typically is done by building some configurations, some business rules, telling how the invoice and PO can find each other, and then how things should be automated in the downstream process. So many of the companies are using things like that, but then on top of that, you can use machine learning or artificial intelligence to automate your non-PO invoices, for example. I mean, I guess the GL coding, finding the right cost allocation for all of the invoice lines is often manual task. It may be very annoying or frustrating task for a business user, cost center owner, who may not be familiar with the internal bookkeeping rules and practices. So it's a difficult thing to do. At the same time, this type of stuff is very trivial for artificial intelligence, because the systems can again go through your historical invoices, analyze patterns, behaviors, and then predict what is the right cost allocation for your invoice. The finance applications, they are also becoming all the time better in automating many of the exceptions. So in this three-way matching example, sometimes it doesn't really match, or there is something exceptional in the invoice, for example, some unplanned freight cost, something like that, which eventually makes the invoice to not match with the purchase order. With modern technologies, it is possible to automate these exceptions, because the solutions will learn that in which situations it is actually okay to also, just approve that extra cost automatically, and again use machine learning here, for example, to allocate that extra cost properly in your bookkeeping. So, with all of this, you can actually go touchless, but what you need here is well-structured data, and that's much easier to achieve when you are out from the paper, and you handle all of your invoices electronically. So, and it's not eventually that difficult, because if you think about it, almost every vendor today, they can pull a PDF invoice from their QuickBooks or whatever system they are using, and then send that by an email to a drop point, instead of using snail mail and paper. So as a customer, then in this scenario, you will get better automation, because you have better data. You can use that to leverage AI to be more efficient with the processing. So you will be able to process your invoices faster. And then as a vendor, your chances of getting paid rapidly are obviously also bigger, because in the receiving end, you are able to process your invoices faster. So it's a win-win situation. And on top of the financial benefits, it's also good for the environment, because if you think about carbon footprint and reducing CO2, less paper certainly drives more healthy environment. And that's actually a perfect bridge to our next topic, which is sustainability. So again, one of my favorite topics, and there are tons of studies showing that increasingly procurement and finance leaders are considering not only financial values when they, for example, select their vendors, but also whether these vendors share the same ethical, environmental, social values as you as a customer do. And many big companies do already set very strict targets for carbon footprint reduction for themselves. And they also often demand the same from their supply chain. Even the biggest companies in the globe has started to do so. I mean, for example, ExxonMobil is something I've been following recently. They did nominate a lady to their board. This lady happens to be also from Finland, and that's why I have been following it. But I mean, they nominated this person to the board to represent the environmental values. So really, even the biggest companies in the world are reacting in the board level for the sustainability, environmental related values, and this will certainly have a big impact also for finance and procurement. And it will have a big impact for modern finance applications and cloud services, because these services, these solutions, they need to guide you with your sustainability related targets, like select the vendor or the product that is sustainable, not only to show who's the cheapest or who's the best in terms of reliable delivery, which is super important too. But on top of these values, you would need to be able to see that which suppliers can do it in a sustainable way. And these solutions, they need to also guide you to not only optimize your process from the savings and cost efficiency standpoint, but also from the standpoint of how to make your entire financial process more sustainable. And I want to remind that it's not only the environmental perspective that is important, but there's lots of other perspectives under the umbrella of sustainability. So I think we have all read stories about companies having huge impact on shareholder value when any issues in the supply chain has been revealed, like some distant vendor somewhere in the supply chain using child labor. I think we have all seen titles like this, headlines like this. So if things like this get revealed, they are having big negative impact for the reputation and also for the shareholder value. So it's increasingly important to be totally aware of how your entire business, including your supply chain, is doing from the standpoint of social and environmental responsibility. So because of all of this, I believe that in the next couple of years, this will be enormous trend impacting the strategies that finance, procurement departments will set for themselves, as well as the KPIs that they will be measured with. All right. Finally, the future of finance, as I see it, it is about collaboration. So based on my observations, still very often procurement and finance departments are not really leveraging the opportunity to cooperate and collaborate better. If you bring your both processes, procurement and finance processes, to modern cloud-based solutions, you can not only handle the end-to-end procure-to-pay process more efficiently and automate it, and even go touchless. But what you're actually doing is that you are building a really, really valuable, important data asset that is relevant for the entire company. Not only you as a procurement or finance leader, but all of your business partners, like inside your company, your peers. I mean, basically, If you do so, you will get 100% visibility to all of your spend, all the outgoing money, to all of your business partners. So you will know the entire history with every company you are doing businesses with. What has happened, what kind of businesses you have been doing, how much you have paid, what kind of services you have ordered. So that information is really, really valuable also for the front line of the business. So that's why I think that there is an opportunity here for procurement and finance to sort of move away from being at the back end and actually becoming a business partner, really important and valuable business partners for all of the other functions. So I think finance is in a great position to be a forerunner in companies' initiative to get fully digital. Many modern cloud platforms, they do allow you to go automatic, go digital, rather independently, by not being really too much dependent on the long backlog of different IT initiatives. And also I think that now in the post-pandemic world, I think the risk mitigation and ability to have a good visibility into cash and spend is often felt to be more important than earlier. And I would actually expect that many companies, they keep shifting their software budgets from other areas like sales and marketing and whatever to finance and procurement, because that will then help the companies to become more resilient in case something similar happens again. So in my thinking, key element in the future of finance is that finance is becoming much more important function within many companies. So I think that we are living in very exciting times.